Hello, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show, and on today's show, we're covering everything Harris County, everything Houston. We're going to cover the CD-9 race, and we have two guests in our studio that are well qualified to talk about those and other issues. We have Crystal Sarmiento.
Crystal de Leon Sarmiento. Good job.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Good job.
And Crystal is a candidate for CD-9, for Congressional District 9, going up against Al Green.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
But she is also an elected politician. She's small town USA, small town Texas, coming in from Manville, Texas.
That's right. You said it right, too.
Thank you very much. In the deep south of Texas. Houston's already south, and Manville's even farther south. If she goes any farther south, she'll be in Galveston Bay. So how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, actually. Thank you for asking.
Good. Well, I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to finally meet you. I've been seeing you at the events and things of that sort, but never got a chance to meet you. So looking forward to hearing about your race, about why you wanted to run and everything of that sort. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I'm excited. Thank you for having me. I love what I do. I'm super passionate about public service, leading from a place of servant leadership. It's my heart's passion. It's my desire. And when we say small town Texas, I was born and raised in Houston. Well, born technically, if we want to get technical, in Galveston. But I was only there for like 24 hours, and my mom drove back to to the other side of Texas. But my entire upbringing has been pretty much Harris County, Houston, Texas. That's my roots. However, I did relocate to Manville when I remarried, and we needed the biggest bang for our buck to fit 5 kids and a new family, and that was the best option for us. And so Manville, we have done phenomenal things since I joined council 3 years ago. And so now I'm pivoting to running for District 9 for Al Green. That was a decision we made before the redistricting, and then the redistricting happened, and we decided we're going to stay in the race because the demographics of the race actually included me in more rather than draw me out. So, yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, you clearly have those Texas roots.
Definitely.
Born and bred. And certainly CD9, there is a vacuum gap for leadership, right? We're really missing an element there. So looking forward to hearing about everything that you plan to do with that. And we have also with us from the city streets of Houston, Mario Garza, and he's going to give us a full update on what's going on in the one of the biggest metropolitan areas, one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the country on this side of the planet, Houston, Texas. Mario, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you are on the state board for bail bondsmen, is that correct?
Harris County Bail Bond Board. It's basically a regulatory board that deals with licensing of bail bondsmen who open up.
Very good. Yeah, we're going to get into all of it here today. But just to start off, I mean, again, the big news is that we finally have Crystal in our studio. Been wanting this to happen for a long time. CD9, it's a big deal because the truth is with the redistricting effort, the truth is that Al Green had that position locked, cemented in, felt completely arrogant in his position because there was nobody that was going to touch him, right? He's awful, but he is a household name. And so he was totally secure, but he's unsecure now due to Texas redistricting. Yeah. And I would say I do not think he's going to get elected. So that's why it's probably one of the most exciting races in the state of Texas. So Crystal, with that being said, first of all, let's step back for a minute.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about what you do in Manville, Texas today.
Okay. So I was recently mayor pro tem, and then currently I was the first elected Mexicana Americana, and I'll say that in Spanish, conservative Christian woman. That represents all those things, right? Other people would disagree, but I was very proud to beat an incumbent that was there for over 6 years and came up. I'm a faith-filled woman, Holy Spirit-filled, and so I felt that it was time for me to step up and stop talking yap online and having, conversations behind the scenes where I wasn't happy with the way things were. And so I jumped in. And I'm proud to say that we have done phenomenal things in Manville. Something that I'm so proud of, the growth that we have seen, the the development, the responsible development that we've been able to bring to Manville has been phenomenal. It's something that I prayed about because my community really came up to me and were like, please don't leave. Please, you're doing phenomenal work here. We want you to stay. However, it was through prayerful decision and also speaking with a lot of community members and business members that really urged me to jump in the race. And so here I am answering the call. Yeah.
Excellent, very good. Very good for the country to have you take that action. You know, I sort of have the same background. I was a keyboard warrior. And then when they dropped the Wuhan flu on us and attempted to put us in a full totalitarian state, that's when I put the keyboard away. And I went out in front of the county commissioner courts. I went out in front of the school boards. I went out into the public space and began speaking, talking, becoming an activist. Never really wanted to, but the times required it. So I stepped up into that position.
Good for
And that's
you.
really what happened with me. It sort of sounds like that was the same thing with you when you
Yeah.
say that. I mean, tell me, like, what was it? What was the final thing that took you over the edge and said, you know, I'm done with this. I'm going to go out there and because again, it's threatening, right? You're gonna now you're open yourself to public
Yes.
criticism, which is it's hard. And if you make any mistakes, you're going to be extra scrutinized. All those things, you know. So, what was it that caused you to make that step into the public space and start doing more than just sitting behind the Facebook and debating online?
It's such a fantastic question. I feel like I believe that it is the nature of my heart to serve. First of all, I'm a Christian and I love Jesus Christ because he died for me and he loved me first. But that desire to serve has been something that I give credit to him for because I have this desire to serve people, to serve my community. And when we're talking about my current experience in Manville City Council, that really came from a need from coaching businesses, local businesses, and there was a severe need for culture change within our employees, really. The way things were being handled, there was a lot of red tape, there was a lot of bureaucracy, and really my experience is that when we come across organizations, whether it's government, whether it's business, and they're stuck, and there's no progress, no movement, things die, you know? And these are practices that I teach in the business side of things. And so I was looking for solutions, and I got sick and tired of complaining about things and seeing my clients suffer under the red tape, under the bureaucracy. And I got frustrated to the point that I said, I'm going to run because I feel like we need to have common sense leadership in places where decisions are being made. Now, that same approach I'm taking with stepping into CD-9. CD-9 has been a stronghold for the Democrats. And I'm here to tell you that that is not, whether it stays, you know, the big news broke today that, you know, the new redistricting maps of 2026 would not hold because of, you know, the state. However, whether or not that changes, I am still a representation of those people, of our people, of Houston, of Harris County, and of Liberty County. The demographic, which many people haven't realized, is that the new CD-9 shifts phenomenally in a minority way, right? We know that 65% of the new district is Hispanics. Now, Hispanics, when you look at that, the map, it's not a melting pot of Hispanics like the southwest side of Houston is. It's predominantly Mexican American, Mexicano-Americanos.
What part of town are you talking about?
So I'm talking about
CD-9, right?
CD-9, when you look at the west side, which is East Houston, Gulf Gate, Galena Park, Pecan Park, Ingrando Park. You're talking Pasadena, which my husband works in South Houston for Centerpoint. He's worked there for 15 years.
And are you a Mexican?
Mexican American, yeah. So I say Mexican American not because I'm not a patriot. We can get to that story. Super patriot. However, my dad is Mexican and my mom is what many would say white, Caucasian, Anglo. You use the term you want, right? I'm half Mexican, half American. But I was raised in my Mexican household. And I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of being half and half.
What
now.
language was spoken in your house?
Spanish.
But if your mom was white, why did you guys speak Spanish?
Well, great question. So my mom and my dad divorced when I was 3, and it's in my book. And
What's the name of your book?
Becoming a Lioness. Becoming a Lioness.
Okay.
And it was #1 and outsold Joel Osteen. So, but in there I talk about the struggles of my mom, which I'm going to be real frank here. For many years, I didn't have the understanding of why my mom left. And I just understood that my dad was a Mexican immigrant who was here legally, who worked from sun up to sundown with calloused hands. He started a small landscaping business. There was no PTO. There's no time off. You know, the freezing days of Houston to the hottest 110-degree days. That's what I grew up with. And my dad, I got to give him credit because many immigrants that immigrated here were assimilating in the 80s, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And so a lot of their children lost the art of speaking Spanish. Whereas my dad told me, in this house, you will speak Spanish and you will speak only Spanish. You're not going to Spanglish it. But when you're at school, you speak English and you speak it correctly. I give him all the credit for that. So I was raised in a Mexican household, Mexican culture. I spent my summers going to Mexico as a single dad who was going to babysit me, right? My tias and my aunts here that live right here in southwest side of Houston, they had jobs as well. And so I would go to Mexico for the summers, and I would spend amazing time out there, really identifying with what that culture is. So when we talk about CD-9, and you look at what the representation is for that district, you were talking about overwhelmingly over 50% are Mexican American and 25% are Anglo. How better do you represent that, right? Like you like I'm literally cut and paste from that. And so what inspired me to run is simply this. There are issues that as a conservative Republican, I will tell you this, we as Republicans are dropping the ball, getting ahead of it. We're letting the messaging stir that demographic that voted for Trump. That's why they redistricted that. That demographic voted for Trump, and
Which demographic voted for Trump?
the Hispanics, the
What was the
Mexican
percent?
Americans.
Do you know, just roughly, do you know what the percentage was by chance?
Overwhelmingly, from the data that we have studied, is 55%
that's
of males
incredible.
voted for Trump. However, I'm not talking about polls and I'm not talking about messaging. I'm talking directly from the conversations when people message me. Crystal, I'm so excited to see you run for Congress. I said, hey, tell me what you're talking about at your kitchen table tonight. I'm going to let you decide what that is. And so we're failing the people who voted for conservative Republicans because we are not talking about the things that they are talking about. We want to dominate talking points and have our consultants come and say, talk about this, and talk about this. Yet, what is the people asking us to do? And so I'm passionate because I feel like it is time that this district have a person that truly represents their values, represents their story, represents their abuela's story, their tios, their tias, and looks and feels like what they and their struggles do. That's really what inspires me. And I'm sorry, Al Green, you did your time, term limits, we gotta go. And we have got to bring fresh faces in that can really represent the people of Harris County, Liberty County, Brazoria County, and beyond.
Yeah. So, I think that your perspective on the Mexican-American community in CD9 is very interesting. I did not know it was that extensive, that it was that large of a percentage over there.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go first because I have an opinion on when you sort of pulled back a little bit. I'm Mexican American, but I'm American, something like that. But go ahead and expand on that. Tell me what it means. Tell me what it means to be Mexican American.
So when we say Mexican American, I'm not saying I owe my patriotism to Mexico. I'm speaking about my culture. Okay, my culture. However, I'm an American. I was born here. My dad's legal. He is the epitome of the American dream. The epitome of that. And I tell this story often. It's also in my book before I even had any thoughts that were sowed in my brain about running for office ever. But this is a true story. So my dad, again, he raised me single father, and he raised my brother for a great portion of that time as well. And my dad loved the Astros. He's number one. He's a soccer fan, right? Like he's a major soccer fan. My brothers played soccer at West Point and here, and with the Dynamo and the Houstonians and all that stuff. Now, my dad loved the Astros and also the Oilers. If y'all remember the Oilers.
Heck yeah,
back in the
man. I
day.
mean, like, I'm not a
Back
Texans
of the
fan.
blue, man. Yeah,
Right.
baby.
If the Oilers were still around, I might follow the team, you know. But I don't know who these Texans are.
Yeah, I have strong opinions about that as well. Like, I'm an Oilers fan forever. So my dad would take me to the Astrodome, right? For those of us who still remember the Astrodome or even been there. I was there when Selena was there. I was there for all the rodeos. So here's what happened. So my dad, if you can imagine a Mexican. Mexicans are predominantly very macho, very strong, which is why I believe many of them voted for Trump, because they will not vote for somebody that's weak. I'm telling you right now. They
Fuerte.
respect fuerte. Yes. They respect authority and they respect confidence. That's the
no
nature
question.
of Mexicanos. Like that's just
Their
it.
work ethic is insane.
Oh, you talk work
Off
ethic.
the charts.
Off excellence. My dad taught me excellence.
And they don't want handouts. They want work, productivity. They want all of that stuff. Everybody knows
100%.
that's their image. Yeah.
We
I
can
mean,
talk about that. So you asked about patriotism. My dad would take me to the Astros games. He figured out a way how to call the radio station and win tickets because we didn't have a lot. And my dad refused to take government handouts growing up. I have a whole story on that. And I didn't find out what food stamps were until I was a teen mom. And I was like, wait, what? My whole life I struggled and there was help? Another story for another day. However, every time we would go to the Astros game, this macho Mexican, alpha, confident, well-dressed, prideful Mexican man would cry. And I remember being like 6 or 7 and looking up at my dad, right, my hero at the time. And I'm like, Daddy, ¿por qué siempre lloras? In Spanish, why do you always cry when we come here? And I said, is it because the Astros always lose? Like, I'm trying to reason why this tough man is wailing every time we come to the Astrodome. And he looked down at me. And he said, porque en este país, which means in this country, I'm able to feed you and start a business, and I love this country. And so it was every time the national anthem would play, my dad could not contain his. Now he gets mad at me that I tell people I saw my dad cry, right? Because he's a macho man. But this is a true story. And I remember having the conversations with both my dad and my mom, although they were divorced, the love for our country and how this is the best country in the world and how we can worship Christ Jesus and pray and do all the things that our Christian Mexican American values bring to the table. And so firsthand, I have seen what it's like to be raised in an immigrant home and be taught to love this country. And so I have to give him credit for that. And my mom too, both of them, right? I mean, they have instilled in me that. So I'm a full patriot. I love visiting Mexico. I have a grandpa who's 100 years old, if you can believe that. But I'm an American first, 1,000%. So let there be no mistake about that. I'm 100% an American, because if it wasn't for the opportunity of this country, my father nor me would be able to realize the American dream. And that is what overwhelmingly is happening in CD-9 with the immigrants, the second generation, first generation, children of immigrants. I mean, this is the topic. And so when you have other candidates that try to tell their beautiful stories, great, go write a book, make a movie about it. But you cannot speak for the people in that district the way I can. And that's just it.
Yeah. You know, I don't think anyone passes any judgment when you say the word Mexican American. The truth is that there was a time when ethnic tensions existed, but they largely existed due to the left, because the left are political opportunists, and the race card was their most effective weapon.
Absolutely.
And it was simply a tactic of racial division where they would create differences amongst us. Everyone knows the ethics, the culture, the work ethic of the Mexican American people. You know, and so we all respect that, appreciate that about them. But again, it was that leftist element in our society that would never allow us to espouse our inner feelings.
Absolutely.
And they were always here to conquer and divide.
Absolutely.
So and to make issue out of the small differences between us. So
yeah. Great questions.
It's interesting that you're touching on that, because me being Latino and Chicano, the issues of the day, immigration, ethnicity.
Yeah.
What comes to happen is that someone like myself has to start taking a good look. You come to terms with your Latinoism, your Chicano inner, and you go, what am I going to be from this point on? Because I'm not happy with some of the things that are going on.
Yeah.
The issue of the left using certain things like race. That's exactly what happened with the criminal justice and bail reform.
Interesting.
Is that they used that card, poverty, race, and what was it? It was two of those issues. The poverty and race were the main issues to say nothing's your fault. And coming from where we come from,
And affordability.
there's a right, and there was there was a way to say, well, wait a minute, we're not down with that. That's what Chicano. See, we didn't have to sell out our culture to be American.
That's right.
That's what a Chicano is. But Chicano said, hey, I still like the menudo.
That's
I
right.
still hit a piñata. I'll still go to quinceañeras.
That's right.
We'll still have them, right? But I don't have to sell out. I'm not selling out America for that.
No.
I'm just entwined in the
In our
country.
culture.
Right. And we
Yeah.
sell it to you. You buy it.
That's
you drink
right.
margaritas.
Yeah.
You love our food.
Hey, that's my middle name,
What's your middle name?
Margarita.
Okay. Well, there you go. See?
So
Yeah.
I like spicy margaritas when I have them. If I do, every now and then I can't finish one, but anyway, on that topic of margaritas.
the thing that I got into in this was that, like many of you who decided you were going to do something, it sort of got dropped into my lap. And then I had to question myself, what am I going to be? Am I going to be a Facebook warrior? Am I going to just be this
Yeah.
guy talking all the time? Or am I really going to put my money where my mouth is? And that was the thing about the country, like your father, when he cries about things, because what really got me about the country were the laws, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, equal protection, 14th, right?
Yeah.
These were things that were like really fueled my young life to go, so this country has protections and I'm entitled to them.
That's right.
And so that made me say, so not only can I be a little educated to have a conversation with somebody that may want to violate those rights and say, can't do that. So it empowered me to think that way, because let me tell you, Pasadena, Texas in the 70s had the Ku Klux Klan marching down the street. And there were no black people.
They were
So-
Democrats.
Well, yeah.
They were
yeah,
Democrats.
Sure.
People forget that.
Yeah, the shift, right?
Yeah.
Like North Pole switching over, again. But the problem is that I didn't know what bigotry was, because I was a Chicano kid from the Second Ward. We moved there,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, what's a wetback? I don't know what that was. I'm looking over my shoulder, right? And I got called names, and it was ugly, and it was vicious, and it stays with you. Not to the point where you're angry at people, but you're cautious, because not everybody wears a sign. So again, bail and crime, I started looking at the minorities and said, wait a minute, you did wrong. You know you did wrong. I'm a bail bondsman. That's my
Yeah.
first contact to say, come on over here and get in my office, and what's going on with you, man?
Yeah.
No, well, my mother didn't hug me. No, stop. Right there, stop. My parents weren't great either all the time.
That's right. They
So,
weren't. They
you
didn't
know-
have the tools we have now. No gentle parenting.
Right. So the Latino that we are, the big numbers that we are, those are the kitchen table conversations that, because we're split on certain things.
Absolutely.
So people are okay with what's going on with immigration. Some are not. But see, it always codifies me back into the law. I'm not going to use hatred or my anger. I'm going to say, well, what really protects me? Because I still look pretty brown. And if I'm standing in a Home Depot parking lot at the wrong time, what's to say? So I always remember to leave the door open. Your father is an example of that hard work. And I think work ethic, the American dream is available for everybody.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of it, is that I'm not trying to close it just for brown people. I'm saying it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to work next to me, but when people come from so much, even I don't understand it, because I'm a third generation here.
You're third generation?
Yeah. So but I learned to speak Spanish 11 years ago because of my business. And the thing about that was cool is that I started to see through the eyes of the people that I was dealing with. I started to understand when they're lost and they don't have any directions. Run into them a lot at the courthouse, I don't know where I'm at. ¿Qué calle está el corte? I'm like, okay, well, it's over here, right? And so it's cool that now I can engage. And rather than I used to be that Latino was like, don't talk to me. I don't speak that. So I was more ashamed as I was growing up because I was assimilating with white people where I was growing up.
That's so interesting that you share that perspective. I share a little different story in my book about the identity crisis because being raised in the southwest side of Houston, which in the 80s was a melting pot of diversity. And sometimes I have to apologize to some of my friends because I did not see bigotry. I didn't see race. I didn't see racism the way I started to see it in corporate America when I started to leave, and really work in corporations with, other people that came from their experiences. The southwest side of Houston was a melting pot in the 80s, and it has, I think today, still the most ethnicities within a 4-mile radius. It's incredible. Now, I will say this, growing up in the southwest side of Houston, I was in the smart classes, if you will, the sites, so it was predominantly white. And I don't look Mexican. Most people can't. Obviously, I dye my hair blonde to cover the gray. Let's just put that out there. However, I'll say this is I struggled with that identity crisis because I wasn't Mexican enough. I wasn't brown enough for the Mexicanos. Yet, I wasn't white enough for my white friends. And I'm like, hey, guys, I'm both. And so I hung out with my Chinese friends, my Asian friends. But really, I understand what that is. And I've struggled because I speak perfect Spanish. I can get on Telemundo and do a full interview. But my dad taught me that. And it served me in my corporate career because I was able to travel and use those skills to help me really be successful. It's not something that I've ever been ashamed of. But I also recognize that there are people that didn't grow up in that. And so we have a disposition that when we don't understand someone that's different than us, we tend to lend judgment. And that's where a lot of people struggle, right? And it also comes from the messaging that they hear at home. And I want to share something about what you're talking about when we're talking about bail reform, and we're talking about crimes and the type of crimes that are really violent that I believe we all agree are bad. I'm not going to say Republicans or Democrats are. I would hope that people on both sides would agree that murder is bad. Like, that's not good. However, I think the issue that the United States is facing, inner city, outer city, when you look at crime statistics and you look at the family component, the overwhelming issue that we are seeing with the uprising in crime is the lack of stable families. And also, as a nation, we've departed from being upfront about our Christian values. And when we try to leave those foundational principles that were meant to safeguard us and keep us safe and keep us blessed, the family unit, the father, the mother, where kids get equal love, and that is such a beautiful thing. But yet when you look statistically at where the crimes are happening, they're broken homes. That leads to a deeper issue that nobody wants to talk about when they're running or when they want to put their name on a ballot. Let's talk about the issues at home. Let's talk about, the families that are broken. And those are the things that lead to substance abuse, to lack of identity, of not knowing who they are, and having to go out to seek some type of thrill or significance. That's really an issue that is plaguing not just our local communities, but inner cities and our country. And we see it today because people get so triggered when you talk about your faith, or you talk about Christ, or you talk, well, I believe in the sun, moon, and stars. Good for you. Hope that works out. I believe foundationally in the Bible because it's been proven time and time again that when you have Christ at the center of the home, those things, not all the time, it's not a blanket statement, but predominantly help crime come down. That's why I believe that if we fix the communities with strong families, no matter if they're blended or not, I have a blended family. I was raised in a blended family. I don't think that's it. I think is the unit that your children are in should feel safe, and there should be a strong presence of any male figure, as also with the strong presence and the love for Christ and those foundational principles. That to me is something that we're not talking about as a society, is where's the root of this? But also to your point is the reform system. And Harris County did this in 2019, where I heard, and we see this in Brazoria County in the jails, where you can't keep up with the amount of crime that's happening, and it costs money on the system. It costs between $78 and $90 a night to house them. And so when you have an influx of crime, you're overwhelming the system, and it's a tax. It's a burden on the taxpayers, but I strongly believe that we shouldn't compromise affordability for negligence. Like, this is literal negligence because you let someone out and they go and murder someone else again. We see it running rampant, specifically in Harris County. And so I'm very upset with the fact that people tried to use ethnicity or affordability to
Mental health.
justify. Yeah, to justify mental health. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. I'm sorry. Intention and action are two different things. You may not have wanted to run past that red light or drive drunk and kill my fiance who died in a tragic car accident, but you did. And that's what matters. And I feel like when our system isn't holding people accountable, this is what you see. You see a repeat and a cycle of crime that continues to multiply rather than getting it at its source. You know, we have become a society where, oh my God, no, there's no consequences. It's okay that your kid has an outburst in the grocery store. I grew up where someone else's mom would come up to you and spank you. Hey, your kid's acting out of line, you know? And this is something that we have gone way beyond. And what's happening is, in order to not overwhelm the system, we're seeing time and time again that society, it's a public safety issue. People are suffering at the hands of these criminals that don't care anyway. You know, and I do believe with what you said earlier, that whether it's 250,000 or $1 million, when it comes to someone that's committed a vicious, violent crime, including murder, rape, etc., it doesn't really matter whether it's 250,000 or $1 million. If that person can get out, they're going to get out. And if they can't, then there should be something where, if it's this type of crime, I know that everybody is due process and there's laws that protect them. But we really need to take a look at what these judges, these magistrates that look at these dockets and they make impulsive, quick decisions because they have so many. The system is overwhelmed. That, in turn, is hurting our society. It's hurting our families, and it's breaking Harris County. It's something that needs to be fixed.
If you go back to 10 years ago, we were safe here. We were 23 for murder in the U.S. We moved up to number 3.
Yeah.
We're third largest county in the U.S. What you talked about the family unit, that does get addressed, but it only gets addressed in a way that it's a crutch. So I came from a broken home, therefore that's my excuse as to why you shouldn't be so hard on me. Harris County 10 years ago, always over the last 20 years, has always had a jail overcrowding problem, but we didn't have the crime to go with it. Now we got both. So what's happened in the jail because of the overcrowding, and the overcrowding is not a space problem, it's a manpower problem. They don't have enough space to spread them out. They don't have enough jailers. So it's a 50-to-1 ratio instead of a 30-to-1 ratio. They're packing them down tighter so less people can watch them.
Yeah.
So with that, what you have is, if you're putting them out on PR bonds and they're reoffending faster, Kim Ogg did a report. Reoffense within 1 year was
What is a PR bond?
Personal recognizance or personal bond. Basically, the defendant signs and it's a promise to peer to a return.
With like little to no money down.
No money.
Right?
No money. It's their word.
It's basically a taxpayer-funded bond, because pretrial services is who's going to be tasked with watching them. And who pays for pretrial services? We do.
Taxpayers.
So when Commissioner's Court expanded that to $100 million, when they were only spending $9 million a year, well, now you see how they said, it was an attack on my industry, which is why I had to take.
One second here. A lot of things coming. Pretrial services. Tell me what exactly happened there.
So when the consent decree was agreed to,
What is the consent decree?
it's a federal O'Donnell case that was filed by an inmate with lawyers to say that Harris County bail system was unconstitutional.
That's right.
And it worked its way.
It was called the O'Donnell decree, and it attacked the bail bondsman, essentially, who was playing at that time a considerable role in maintaining the peace. Because as I understand it, what a bail bondsman does is he polices criminals, or criminals is the word criminals, or defendants,
however you want to say,
while they are out on bail. And so they remove the bail bondsman, and now we have lawlessness. Okay, so, and the O'Donnell decree is the reason that is how that bail bondsman got removed, correct?
Sure.
Am I got that right or not?
Yes.
Okay, please, now go ahead.
So what the and again, there was also another case that got dismissed in federal court, Russell versus Harris County. Now that Russell versus Harris County case was going to do the same thing, but with felonies.
Was going to do the same thing as the O'Donnell?
Yes, it was a federal lawsuit that began after O'Donnell, and their move was to do the same thing that they were going to do.
And by doing the same thing, you mean to essentially allow people out with little to no down on bail?
On felonies.
Right. When they committed a felony.
Right. So, but here's the thing. Here's the whole thing that blows a hole in the whole bail reform thing. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the defendants don't have a right to affordable bail. Basically, they don't have a right to be free from a wealth-based detention. Not only that, it said that you are not to do away with secured bail. That's bail bondsman.
Yeah.
So you are not to do away with that. And they told the lower court, which was Rosenthal here in Houston, you need to create a mandate that complies with that.
And Rosenthal's who?
The federal judge here that basically approved the O'Donnell consent decree. Was basically
so he got slapped. He got
she did, yes. And she ignored, like what's going on with the judges here. You have state law that dictates how they're supposed to carry out bail, but yet they ignore it because they feel that they got this federal consent decree, which has been overturned. And there's another case in Dallas. This Dallas versus Daves versus Dallas County. Now, Daves versus Dallas County dealt with felony and misdemeanor bail, which caused the Fifth Circuit to revisit O'Donnell and say, if we had O'Donnell to look over again, we would not have ruled the way we did. So basically, it was almost like a third overturn of that.
Okay, so with the courts essentially in the long run, the courts ruled in the correct way, defending the bail bondsman and the bail process, and rejecting this bail reform process, which allows defendants out on little to no money down. Well, how in the world is it still? How's bail reform going through then, in spite of the law working the way it should have?
Well, let's just look at it simply. And I said this for a few years, but when a judge takes an oath and doesn't follow it, I mean, the judges are basically enacting law for the rest of the state without going through the legislature. So what does a governor do? He removes them. Right now, the O'Donnell case is up on a motion to vacate and a motion to intervene by the Texas Attorney General. He's filing to intervene to kill it, to do away with it. So this is where we're at. We haven't had any movement on it, but it is there. But when you begin with what O'Donnell did, the left, the Democrats, when the Fifth Circuit ruled the way they did, those people ran right out into the camera and said, bail has been ruled unconstitutional. It's a good day for criminal justice reform. When I actually read the opinion, that wasn't what it said at all. But that's the lying that goes on that says, now you have leaders that tell us crime is going down, when everything else points to the direction that it's rising.
Yeah.
So what good are you if you get elected only to lie your way out of a problem? The important thing is to own the problem and let's fix it. But to consistently tell us it's going down, you're just playing with numbers. You're omitting this, adding that. We have massive dismissals, which proves that it works, but it's not, because you're just dismissing cases against people. Magistrates are setting bail, which is why a lot of the legislation that just recently went into effect had to be passed based on discretion. You're talking about holding people zero bail. We used to do that. We knew when judges said, hey, you're not getting bail. And we were okay with that because it didn't happen often, but it happened enough to where it needed to happen.
And it was used when it was appropriate.
Right.
Before.
Because discretion was solid.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got to jump back a second. So now it's being widely abused, correct? Am I right? It's being widely abused.
Yes.
And the courts ruled in the right way, so these lower level judges are essentially going against the law and abusing the bail process. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, and these judges can be pulled by the governor, correct?
I mean, they swore an oath.
What does that mean?
He swore an oath to the state of Texas.
So the judge can be pulled by the governor, correct?
Come and just remove them. I mean,
well, why isn't it happening? That's a question for Greg Abbott, right?
The same way that when they filed an intervention the first time, they withdrew their intervention.
Who filed the intervention?
The Attorney General and the governor.
Ken Paxton, and then they pulled it back.
Right. That was 4 years ago when they did that. So my legal thought process, like, why would you do that? Why would you withdraw something when you had them on the run? At that point, that's when Rosenthal dismissed the Russell versus Harris County. That went nowhere. That didn't get to it.
But why did they do it? Did you ever find the answer?
Well, I think why they withdrew it I think they thought that they had gotten the win with the Russell versus Harris County being dismissed, but you still had O'Donnell in effect. And let me
So-
tell you what was being violated with that. The O'Donnell consent decree was only meant for misdemeanors. Do you realize I got data going back to the very beginning and they were letting felons out? But they'll swear up and down that they didn't let felons out. No way. It didn't happen.
Well, and then what you see is we are not for illegal immigration, right? That let's just put that out there, and we tie that to what happened in Pasadena with the illegal immigrant that raped and murdered an 11-year-old
girl in the apartment.
When did this
little
happen?
Girl.
He stuffed her under the bed, right?
He stuffed her under
He
the
was
bed.
he was living with them and he was illegal.
Yes, I think he was next door, wasn't he, or was he in the house? I don't remember those details.
The dad went to work
Yes.
and he didn't. I think he came.
He
home
knocked next.
Yeah.
He was from next door, I believe. He grabbed her, raped her, stuffed her under the bed. 11 years old. Happened right here in Pasadena. And what we also see is that same level of bonding them out and letting them go, and on their word promising that they're going to come back is why this has gotten out of hand. It's an abomination to the taxpayers. To
Well,
the
this is-
immigrants
Do you know if that guy
here.
got out? Did he get out?
No, he's still in jail.
he's still there.
But here's the thing about what's going on with immigration and PR bonds.
Yeah.
That the public doesn't see as I'm seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get arrested and you're undocumented or illegal, the county will give you a PR bond. Well, guess what?
Because they're two different things, undocumented and illegal, and a lot of people don't understand the difference.
Well, the thing is that this guy is going to process out of county, but he's not going to get out. He's going to go to immigration.
That's right.
And then he's going to get deported. What does that mean? That means he never faced justice here. See,
That's right.
before we deported people, but they finished out their case.
That's
They were
exactly right.
convicted, and then upon conviction, they went over to immigration and they got
And they
deported.
got deported.
Now they're so quick to push them out that they're not staying
Are they
here.
getting deported though?
Yes.
They are
what's
100% getting deported, but he brings up a strong point that there has to be system reform, right? We have to fix the immigration system, right? And I don't want to get it twisted because people say if you say immigration, they think it's illegal. No, we're talking about get rid of the illegals, and those who commit crimes need to pay the price here. And then figure out, we have technology that has been stuck. The entire system is failing those people who have been here stuck in a system, paying thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars with attorneys saying, gosh, I'm going to need another $3,000
Just
and I
bleeding them.
can't guarantee you anything.
They're just bleeding them.
And so what we find is you've got really strong working ethical people. We all know them, and people who are afraid to speak up for them, you should be ashamed of yourself. Now, the issue is the illegal immigration got so completely out of hand because of situations like that where we were not holding them to the fire. You committed a murder, you need to pay the price. Oh, you showed up, no problem, a free-for-all. And that ultimately disintegrates our society. It creates a public safety concern. And then these beautiful baby girls end up murdered here in Houston, Texas. I mean, it's an atrocity.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that because that's actually another point that I go into dealing with immigration. What I'm finding, and I'm talking to certain people, and like the council member in Baytown, and he brought this, and I'd already been thinking this, but if we don't fix the immigration system, then what happens is the undocumented themselves become targets of crime because they're easy prey.
That's exactly
yeah,
right.
So they go underground.
That's exactly right.
And then they don't report crime, so they can be raped, they can be robbed, they can be murdered.
That's exactly
And they'll never
right.
say anything. So we have to fix that problem, and we have to understand the due process rights
Yeah.
that they still have so that they will be willing to report crime because we don't want them to go underground that way.
That's exactly
Because
right.
then there's people that will prey on that and know.
And there's employers that do that. I coach clients today that are in the construction industry, concrete industry, and they are seeing. We had a roundtable, and I speak with them all the time. And when we're talking about economy, I'm not saying let's give everybody a stamp for amnesty. Absolutely not. That is not what we want. However, we are seeing that people are afraid. This is a fact. You can choose to call that a democratic mindset or not. I don't care. These are economic issues that are facing Harris County, Liberty County, Dayton County, Brazoria County today, Fort Bend County, because you have a population that are legal. And one of my clients said 30% of his workforce, and he's got hundreds of employees, will not travel because they're afraid that they will get pulled over. And so because of that, that trickles into their business, not being able to fulfill orders, not being able to really meet the demand. And so it's a financial issue, right? Economic issue. Now, to your point, it sets them up to be prey because there are those employers out there. You know, I used to see the massage parlors when I worked in a church, where I volunteered at a church where a lot of the immigrants from overseas were being utilized in that way and really enslaved, because they knew that they wouldn't dare call the police, because if they did, they would be deported back to, you know, horrible conditions. Now, the system is failing the country. That's America first. Is if we want to secure the border, which we've done, then we need to secure the border, and now we need to secure the workforce, and we need to do it in a way that protects immigrants that want to be here, that want to assimilate. They simply want to work. That's all they want to do. Now, the problem that we are a consequence of the bail reform and what's happening there is you are seeing it, like we just discussed, with this immigrant illegal that raped and murdered a little girl. That's just one story that made the headlines. There's hundreds of stories, and those stories are not even being spoken about because, God forbid, we talk about immigration, right? You know, at this point,
But if you understand sex crimes, right?
Yeah.
Pedophilia and all
Yes.
that stuff. Let's understand that spreads across all socioeconomic backgrounds.
That's exactly right.
So if you wanna paint it like that, it comes from every rich people do it.
Yep.
Poor people, middle class, school
mean-
teachers.
Okay, but here's my point on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we never see law enforcement go after the traffickers, go after the distributors of this criminal enterprise. They always go after the consumers. And if you want to shut something down, you shut it down at its source.
That's right.
They never do it. Why don't they? Because I talk about this often. Drugs, right? 40 years ago, Nancy Reagan declared war on drugs. 40 years later, drugs are booming, right? I've lost several friends to drug abuse because it's just booming. And why? Because they never go after the drug smugglers. They don't go after them because, number one, they build their careers. Politicians build their careers on the criminal element, on pretending to tackle the issue. If the issue goes away, they no longer can be, Joe Cowboy, the tough sheriff of the county.
That's right.
That's number one. Number two, because if they go after that unit is politically connected, right? It all stems up. Who is the largest trafficker coming out of Mexico? There is someone. There is a grand trafficker coming out. We don't know that guy's name, right? Why don't we know that guy's name? It's because our law enforcement doesn't want to go up the distribution chain and actually tackle the problem at the source. And
Well,
the
how
reason I
can
say
they?
this, if I may say one last thing,
Yeah.
the reason I say this is because the greatest threat to us is that little girl who got killed. Or, for example, if you lose your daughter at a convenience store, you look away for a minute and she gets snagged, put in the back of a van, traveling down 59, you never see her again. And so my whole point is that what they should do is they should marshal all law enforcement resources after the traffickers. When they do these busts, I always sense, I always detect a notion of BS in it. Because I think that the cops, I want to see audits of these arrests. Because they never
Exactly.
get the traffickers. I don't want to hear anything else but them getting traffickers, nobody else, because I want the problem solved.
Well,
What do you think about the cantinas? In our culture, cantinas, we're a big hub in
Cantineros,
Houston.
that's right.
You know those little hole-in-the-wall bars? They got underage girls working in there.
Yes, they do.
The pony bars. And where these drunk men go, they're Hispanic, undocumented. When they get off of work, there are laws against traffickers that whenever they bust them, they did it at Las Palmas on telephone.
you know why?
They-
Because they pay the judges, they donate to their campaigns, and from what I'm hearing, a lot of them are bought.
They sold off their property to pay the girls for the trauma. So there are federal laws that they confiscate their stuff. The enterprise itself confiscate it, sell off the assets, and give the money to the girls. The girls get asylum, obviously, because they're abused,
course.
trafficked, and things of that sort. So, but you're not going to tell me that, like what you're saying about judges, that kind of cartel money or that whatever, they're into everything, drugs, girls, heroin.
crimes.
So the thing is, you're not going to tell me that kind of wealth is not going to buy its way into our courts.
That's right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sadly.
The point I was trying to make. What is the big drug smuggler that they pulled out of Mexico? What's that guy's name?
Well, El Chapo.
Yeah, El Chapo. What point is like there is an El Chapo of human trafficking. Like if we get that guy and we don't even know who his name is. We don't even know that guy exists, but it exists.
It's an organization, so even if you cut the head off, someone else will rise. They're set up in like a military style, and so as much as we want to go after the kingpin, it's got to be strategic, and you've got to cripple them from the inside out. Now, I'm going to say this also. I talk to officers all the time. I love our police officers.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that are police officers, family members that have been police officers and retired. And what is happening with letting criminals out like that makes them feel defeated. They're out there working the beat. They're busting their butt.
No.
They're doing their
them.
job. They're, getting drug dealers off the street, fighting,
The
getting
DA won't even accept charges.
It's
They call it in and they're
ridiculous.
like, we're not going to prosecute. Let them go.
This is a slap in the face to our law enforcement that is out there putting their neck and their lives on the line to sit here and say, okay, you brought in the guy. Good job, buddy. We're letting him out. What a slap in our police officer's face. I mean, that right there should make anybody upset
Well,
that says we support our police
I
officers.
pick apart what you just said.
Yeah.
So they can't say it because they work for the department.
Exactly.
So I say, give it to me. Tell me what the inside
Yeah.
stuff is that you can't say. So I take it out.
Yeah.
I work for myself. Nobody's got anything over me.
Yeah.
Tell me what, because I already saw that. Police morale, as soon as bail reform took off, I said, this is going to kill cops.
Yeah.
The morale is going to go, pfft.
So in Manville, that's one of the things that we did. As soon as we got on council, that was one of the things that I was passionate about was we need to give them raises. We need to treat them with value because when you value your police force, you pay them right, you honor them, you give them dignity, and that when they're doing the hard work, there's a reward for it. You keep those same faces and you keep the culture inside of that police force very tight. And what that does is it trickles out into a safe community. Then the community sees these police officers as friends, as allies, and not the enemy. We fought really hard in Manville to make sure that they got the best pay. I mean, our chief was just telling us the other day that finally, after 3 years of us being there fighting for this, we have people applying to be officers in Manville that they can't keep up with it. I mean, we've really invested in helping the department. And I have to give credit to our chiefs because when you have good leadership, it trickles down to the force. Sure. It all starts with who's at the top and do they know how to build a team of solid people with great culture. And that right there is powerful. But it starts with the system. The system has to be set up where it is supporting them. I mean, can you imagine them feeling defeated? Imagine the guy that raped and killed that little girl being the officer. This is hypothetical. Right. That puts him in jail for drunk driving or something. And then the next day, the prosecutor lets him out and then he kills a family because they couldn't keep him in. I mean, that's ridiculous. We've got to fix that.
It's like last year, HPD, 264,000 cases that were not investigated. 4,000 of those were sex assaults. And yet,
incredible.
And then that particular chief, which was Finner, went before city council and said crime's going down. Well, if you got 264,000 cases off the books, of course.
Of course, because you're not investigating
then
them.
we find out later, it was all these cases.
It's falsified accounting.
Right, it's magic math.
That's right.
We'll just admit that.
So
that's right.
Yeah, I think we're covering everything. And then I'm not saying that lightly. I mean everything,
Yeah.
Everything, that Crystal said in the beginning about the restoration of values, the restoration of faith, the restoration of family, that's the core unit. But then at the same time, we have the left has instigated in a demonic way a lawless society, which absolutely puts our police in such an awful way. What I want to say is I just want to finish up with one thing. So, Crystal, one of the things that you told me is that I want to finish on a light note.
On a happy note.
Yeah. One of the things that you told me is that you had an experience with Joel Osteen.
I did.
And Joel Osteen is a Houstonian. He's a Texan.
Yeah.
And I think that he is really quite a contributor to the community. I know that he gets a lot of bad press, but I think that it's hating the good for being good. I think he's genuinely a good man. And I find value in his work. And just share with me what your experience was with him.
Well, it's with him, his church, the servants of his church. I know a lot of people who have served on the worship teams. When I, was part of the worship team at Grace Community for many years, a lot of the people kind of operated between there and their Spanish services as well as Grace Community. However, I do find oftentimes that people who haven't experienced his church or experienced a sermon, that they take their information from social media, where obviously if you're not a Christ follower and you don't even already have a heart of servitude and you're not really doing anything for your community, it's funny how a lot of people like to attack others who are. And it's easy to say, well, Joel Osteen he's just a motivational speaker. Well, here's how, this is my logic to that. If you turn on any Christian radio, or drive down Houston, Texas, we have churches on almost every other block. We're saturated with faith-based buildings. What I find refreshing about him is that his calling, in my opinion, is to bring hope to the hopeless. And he does it in a fantastic way. There's many testimonies of people who have flipped through the radio stations, flipped through the TV at night, who were ready to end their lives. And all of a sudden, the smiling preacher comes on. And in that moment, he doesn't talk about hell and fury. He talks about Christ in a relationship way that really opens up a heart and heart to at least listen. And what I find, if you listen intently, what you hear him say is, go find a Bible-based church. He never says, hey, come to me, donate all your money to me. He doesn't say that. Now, there is at the end of the broadcast, if you would like to partner, please feel free to do so. However, in my opinion, there's plenty of pastors that can do the other work, but I truly believe that he is sticking to his calling and being a beacon of hope around the world. Their ministry goes in to the darkest, deepest, secluded places of even communist territory, where his job is to just, if they could just hear a little glimpse of hope, then he's doing his job. He gets attacked for, I don't think a pastor should drive a Lamborghini. I don't know what he drives.
He drives a nice car.
Well, I think he deserves it.
I'm okay with it. I have no issue with it.
I have no issue with it. You're doing good work. You wake up and you work. So you mean to tell me that only businessmen deserve to drive nice cars and have luxury? I'm sorry, but many people don't know this, but in the Bible, Solomon, who is to this day reported as the most richest, wealthiest man ever recorded in history, ever. And it's in the Bible. And so I feel like people just want people like us that are public servants to live off of scraps. That's not what God intended. Now, I'm not saying it's a prosperity message or not, but I'm saying that if you wake up and you work and you write books and you can monetize that, why is it not okay to be a good business person and also inspire hope into the lost?
Yeah.
I'm for it. I'm sorry.
I totally agree. Joel Osteen, and I say this in a positive way, he is surface level, and the Bible is a very rich, deep book. But that's the role he plays. Yeah. He plays a role. The week is difficult, the week is tough, and people need self-esteem first. And they need that lift up, and he is so good at doing that, at giving you that lift up, putting a pep in your step, and introducing you to the Bible, right. and then encouraging you to move on to deeper churches that explore it further. But my own personal experience is that I was going through a very difficult time about 20 years ago. Me and my wife, we didn't have any money. I just brought my wife over from Russia. I did consulting over in Russia, met my wife, came home, married her, brought her over, was broke, and I had gone through a very difficult business venture. And I had no money, so we would go shopping about once a week in the grocery store, and Joel Osteen's book was in there. And I didn't want to spend the money to buy it because I was very tight then. I didn't have the money. So I would read it. I don't remember which one, but it was incredible. I would read it while she would shop. I'd read the book. And I got through an entire summer, I got through the book. I may have gotten through 2 of his books. I don't know. But it helped me. And I needed help, man. I was in a really desperate way. And that's what I think he does for people. So when I see people disparage him online, I disagree with them.
Well, Jesus did say that even he was persecuted, and so people tend to want to find fault in people who do good works. And I mean, the Bible's clear. It's the Bible. I mean,
I come in contact with people who are lost. And as someone who grew up feeling like God didn't love me, that's where I interact. And I say, look, My office is my church.
I love
If
that.
I really put it, you
your
know,
ministry.
and I won't question anybody's faith. Just don't question mine. If Joel Osteen does it his way and he gets through to all these people, good for him. But I do it when people walk through my door and they're like, "Hey, man," I said, "Today's probably one of the worst days of your life, but tomorrow will be better."
I appreciate that.
And then
man.
the
That's
next day,
amazing.
because sometimes I'm down, and I'm not, God, as my witness, I've been in my office, lost, no money, almost going out of business because of bail reform, and I'm sitting there, and somebody walks in my office, and I talk to them, and they're like, "Man, I really needed to hear that. Thank you." I said, "No, brother, thank you, because I needed to hear it too."
I love
think
that
that-
so much.
yeah.
We were
That's
like that,
amazing.
just
That's
for that
amazing.
moment.
As a Christian, we are called that our businesses are ministries. We should use our businesses to serve the community in whatever capacity that is. And you know, this is something that I align with. Is I left my corporate career for my corporate calling, because whenever we're executive coaching or we're dealing with leaders, there's always an issue of identity. And unless we know who we are as children of Christ, I believe there's always this question inside that we're seeking some type of hope and we're seeking some type of love from whatever it is. You know, people try to make sense of that. But I love your story about reading his book, because I have heard countless testimonies of how at that moment in time there was a word of hope, or he spoke into their lives, or maybe they ran across him or just happened to hear his word at that moment. And look, anybody that's inspiring someone to uplift them and bring them hope, why attack them? Find, if you don't like
Especially in
him, change
these
the
times.
channel. Like, where, you know, change the channel. I always like to talk about how Jesus became real in my life. And I will say this, you know, my fiance, when I was a young teen mom, died in a tragic car accident. A good friend of ours was driving under the influence, and it was a very tragic time in my life. And I remember questioning God and being, you know, in my book, I talk about how inside my emotions were so volcanically raging against God, because this God that I was told that had everything in control had ripped from me the love of my life. And he came in and I blamed him. I was angry at God. I'm like, how could you do this to me? You are such a great God. But then I started to learn that that's not God's plan, that the Bible doesn't say that this is heaven. He says you will face tribulation in this. And if you seek me, then take heart. You're going to see that. But I've overcome the world. And so my faith, I began to study the Bible on my own. I was raised Catholic, but I really felt like I needed a stronger relationship with Christ Jesus. And I became obsessed with reading the Bible and learning who he was, but mainly learning who he says I am. Who do you say I am? Because the world comes and calls us things. Our circumstances call us things. Our upbringing, our traumas, our broken homes, the things that break us inside send a message to our soul. But yet, if you take the time to really study, who does God say I am? He says you were born on purpose with the purpose. And that's why I believe strongly also in pro-life, because I believe that foundationally our Creator doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't make mistakes. And every single one of us has a purpose and a calling, even if we can't see that light right now. But if we lean into who he is and who he says we are, then the truth comes, and the Bible says that the truth will set us free. And so to me, I love the fact that Joel Osteen, but also I got to give shout out to my pastor, Tim from New Hope Church, because he preaches the word. Like he preaches, and every time he preaches the word, he brings the cross to it. And I do believe that there's a balance of feel good. Sometimes we need that feel good, uplifting spiritual moment. But sometimes this is what's lacking also in churches, is we become apathetic and very passive, and God is not a passive God. And so our pastors need to take heart. They need to be bold. They need to be courageous, and they need to teach the word of God as it is, while balancing it with grace and love, because that's who Christ is. He died on the cross for us, and it was to bring that. Because if he didn't pay for our sins, can you imagine? Like, I feel bad for people. We all go through bad things. None of us are not going to go through them. But it's better to be able to have our faith secure in the creator of the universe than not have any hope.
Yeah, I think that, you know, in order to, you touch the fire, you get burned. And that's where we're at right now. And I believe that, you know, it's in that process that good comes out of it, because, you know, that's how we learn where we don't want to go.
Yeah.
And I think that society is in a very dark, desperate spot. But at the same time, the phoenix rises from the ashes, and I see a restoration of values.
Yeah.
I see it on the uprise, and I see a restoration of faith and family and all the right things. I would say that the ball's still in the left's court, but I think that all the momentum is shifting in our direction. And with that being said, guys, I don't want to keep you any later. It's really late. I wanted to get you home to your family.
Thank
So
you.
with that being said, Crystal, can you please tell us where can people learn more about your campaign?
Absolutely. I would love for you to reach out to me if you have questions. I know there's a lot of people who've already made decisions. And I just encourage you, first of all, I just want to say this. I want to give credit to anybody that has the boldness and the desire to serve publicly. That it's not for the faint of heart. It takes courage. We expose our families. We put ourselves out to be piñatas, basically. So for everybody that's in CD-9, I want them to know I pray for their families. I hear things behind the scenes about their personal lives. I'm no one to judge. I just hope that people who are in those districts find someone that they truly can align their values with, but also know that they can depend on that person to fight for those values and not apologize for them. That's something that I do bring to the table. Those who know me know I can get a little spicy and passionate when I'm strong in my beliefs about things. And I encourage anybody to look up my council page, because it's still my council page on Facebook. It's Councilwoman Crystal de Leon Sarmiento, Crystal de Leon Sarmiento. And the website is crystaluscongress.com, Crystal US, because
Very
it's
good.
about us. It's about the people.
Thank you, and thank you for running.
Thank you.
Mario, tell us where we can learn more about your. Do you have a bail bond business, or what do you
Yes.
do? And what is the name of your business?
First Advantage bail bonds.
Where
I
can we learn
also
more about that?
well, you can Google it. I'm on Facebook. We have a website. Also, a little backstory quickly. I also started a nonprofit for victims of murder called Take Back Our City. And so I have a little money that I try to help with the victims. I go to court with them. I sit with them through their hearings, as many as I can. But that came from what I saw was going on with crime. So again, motivated to learn.
Thank you
I
for
will-
doing that.
yep,
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
doing that. That's phenomenal.
I will make sure that gets promoted.
Yeah. And I'll give you some info, and you
Perfect.
guys can put it out there. But
Please.
it's out there.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
learn more about that. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate everyone here.
Thank
and
you,
this-
guys.
Thank you for having me.
Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. Forgot to tell you to buy the patch. Buy the patch for me. We'll do that next time. And we'll see you next Tuesday with one more hot topic. Have a great week.